2.3 million people are behind bars in the United States, the highest incarceration rate in the world. A recent report by the Pew Center indicates that the U.S. leads in percentage, growth, and absolute number of prisoners worldwide. FSRN's Naji Mujahid takes a look at the conditions that prisoners face in the prison capital of the world.
The prison population in the United States has exploded by 600% over the past 30 years. It should be noted that though the prison population has skyrocketed, the level of violent crime has been steady. They can't build prisons fast enough to keep up with the harsh sentences handed out, and conditions in overcrowded and underfunded prisons across the U.S. draw criticism from all sides. Members of the American Federation of Government Employees and Bureau of Prison Officials, including correctional officers, say it's virtually impossible to run a safe and secure prison today.
Homicide rates are up in our prisons. Assaults on staff with weapons are up in our prisons. Assaults on staff, period. Great number of riots are occurring in our prisons. We're having disturbances at the greatest rate. We've had more shots fired from towers in the last year than any time in the history of the Bureau. And it's not due to inmates trying to escape. It's them trying to murder other inmates and murder our staff. And I say, Mr. Attorney General, we're not taking it anymore.
Correctional officers from all over the country last month staged a protest in front of the Department of Justice to demand more funding for the Bureau of Prisons. But the view from the other side of the bar suggests funding might not be the root of the problem. I spoke with a man who asked to remain anonymous about his experiences during 13 years of incarceration at various prisons in the state of Maryland.
Most of the guys that are in there, they don't want any problem. If the officers just handle things differently and be a lot more professional, things wouldn't even escalate a lot of time.
He talked about the things that correctional officers did that contributed to the chaos behind the walls, like how they smuggled contraband like food, cigarettes, cell phones, pornography, drugs, and weapons, including guns, into the prison. He also talked about how disrespectful they were in their speech and interaction towards the prisoners, and particularly the use of unnecessary force.
Like one guy, he had a cell phone. They almost beat the guy to death because he had a cell phone. I mean, take the cell phone. Why you got to beat him? But a lot of them have the messed up mentality. It's their job to punish you. Their job is to watch you and make sure you don't commit any more crime and make sure you don't escape. But they take it upon themselves to try to punish you.
He believes that the prisons would run a lot better if guards were more respectful and humane and less antagonistic and violent towards inmates. But some unruly guards isn't the only problem that the prisoners have. They also experience limited health care, sexual assaults by guards and other prisoners, a lack of educational programs and books, and ever-increasing use of special housing units. These types of units are usually used as a punishment or ostensibly for the inmate's safety, such as in the case of a snitch or a juvenile in an adult prison or someone with mental health problems. Carol Sharoff of Human Rights Watch.
This is where you see the most egregious violation. Just the sheer deprivation of human contact has such a psychological and physical impact on people. People aren't meant to live that way. Dostoevsky once said, if you want to understand a society, you should look inside its prisons. And, that issue of the special control units and all of these violations and abuses really show that, is this the kind of society we want to be? It's deeply, deeply disturbing.
It is for this reason that many groups have made it their mission to fight against these injustices. One such group, Critical Resistance, takes the position that the prison system should be abolished altogether. Pilar Maskey, Membership and Leader Development Coordinator for Critical Resistance.
Basically, we believe that if there was better, good education system, if there was housing for everyone, if there was food for everyone, if people weren't struggling and trying to survive every day to just make the daily necessities for our families, that we would be living in a freer world and we wouldn't need to rely on prisons and police to handle our problems.
Prison abolition may seem a bit utopian and far-fetched, but so did the abolition of slavery at one time. In fact, the parallels between slavery and the coerced labor now prevalent in U.S. prisons has been expounded upon by many activists and academics. The 13th Amendment, which seemingly abolished slavery, included an exception for individuals duly convicted of a crime. Reporting for FSRN from Washington, D.C., I'm Naji Mujahid of the D.C. Radio Co-op.
And now, from his cell on Pennsylvania's death row, a commentary from Mumia Abu Jamal.
prison house of nations. With the release of the Pew Center on the States report comes news that proves without question that the U.S. is the world's champion when it comes to incarceration rates. Of 100 Americans, there is one adult in prison. According to news reports detailing the Pew Center research, the year 2008 began with 2,319,258 people in U.S. jails and prisons. No other nation can boast such a raw number or per capita rate of incarceration. Not China, which has over 4 times the U.S. population, nor India, which has 3 times the population. That's because the U.S. transformed its prisons into a job-making program and a business. The 50 states have spent over $49 billion on its 2007 prisons budget, up from $11 billion spent in the 1987 prisons budget. Over a decade ago, I warned of precisely this outcome in my book, Live from Death Row. That's because we were then in the midst of the incarceration boom due to tougher and tougher sentencing. The so-called drug war has fed this binge, and only now, over a decade after the rash and harsh imprisonment of many, many people, the Sentencing Commission is easing the rules on sentencing for possession of crack cocaine versus powder. Why would the government ease up? It may be because the states are drowning in red ink over burgeoning prison costs. Because decades after the onset of the drug war, in 2005, over 33.6 million Americans over 12 years old used cocaine. As for crack, some 8 million people reported usage of that drug in their lifetime. If we look at U.S. high school seniors, we find an astonishing figure. In 1975, 1.9% of these students reported cocaine use. In 2006, that number was 2.5%. So much for the so-called drug war. For these figures show how, after billions of dollars were spent on prisons, and an incredible number of people were imprisoned in rates that no other nation has yet faced, the rate of drug use has not only not declined, it has increased. Guess who's winning? From Death Row, this is Mumia Abu Jamal.
These commentaries are produced by Noel Hanrahan for Prison Radio.
Free Speech Radio News is supported by Pacifica Radio, community radio affiliate stations, and listener supporters. To find out how you can support FSRN's programming, visit our website at www.fsrn.org. That's fsrn.org. You can email us your feedback, questions, and story ideas to comments@fsrn.org. Our producers are Monica Lopez and Tina Giese. Our headlines editor is Shannon Young. DC editor is Leanne Caldwell. Our technical production team at KPFA in Berkeley includes Eric Klein and Antonio Ortiz. From KPFK in Los Angeles, this is Aura Bogado.